let's discuss the monkey in the room. Well, that fell off the rails fast. New record. When it comes to strategic fasting protocols, there is a common dilemma that the majority of practitioners face. Well, actually there's a couple, but a lot of them hover around the main reasoning or context for which the intervention is being performed. For many, the primary objective when implementing a fasting protocol is, drumroll, weight loss. And listen, although I don't like that, I'm cool with it, as long as we rework that phrase to what it really likely means. Fat loss. And actually, if we're reworking things, let's rework it one more time. To the preservation of non-fat mass while watching those silly numbers on the scale go in the desired direction. Extrapolation at its finest. And to do that, what we are diving into today is an extremely helpful tool.
I lift things up and put them down.
Oh, come on. Don't give it away yet. Yo, what is up? Welcome back to another week of How to Health. My name is Kevin. I run liftandbalance.com, where we take aim at all things health and longevity and do it in an odd, weird, interesting, and highly sarcastic manner. Today, we are talking about two fan favorites of this channel as it pertains to modulating cellular and metabolic health for the better, aka getting healthy from the inside out, aka operating more efficiently, aka sleeping better, aka feeling better, aka thinking better, aka strategic fasting and exercise. And by the end of this video, you're going to know why, if you do one, specifically strategic fasting, you're going to want to do the other. So we'll start with the potential dilemma around fasting and tissue breakdown, then talk about why muscle is so damn important, explore some new data looking into the benefits of adding exercise to a fasting protocol, and finally, some ways to apply this in real life to your own potential protocols. But in order to do all that, we must first start with getting what you really want out into the open. What you probably really want. When most people first consider a fasting protocol, they do it because of all the claims they've heard around its mythical powers of seducing the scale in the direction of their desire. The latter of which is a voodoo that has grown in market size to the tune of $60 billion a year. Damn is right. And although that's never a focal point of the discussions on this channel, as we like to focus on all the cool changes that happen at the cellular and metabolic level, changes that modulate longevity pathways and ultimately lead to the aforementioned seduction, all of which you can check out on the fully loaded Fasting 101 playlist, I do want you to realize that if you find yourself in this situation, it is highly likely that you are looking for fat loss, rather than the common umbrella term of weight loss. And I say this for a reason, because the deterioration of lean tissue mass like skeletal muscle can be a common and suboptimal byproduct of an energy-restricted diet. Yes, maybe moving the needles on the scale, but in a way that jeopardizes other aspects of health, vitality, and longevity. And that ain't cool for biological school or biological business, which we'll talk about in just a minute. But when it comes to a fasting protocol, there is some good news. When compared to more conventional weight loss methods like calorie restriction, the research indicates that intermittent fasting is more likely to preserve lean tissue mass. But as always, it depends on many different internal and external variables at play, some of which we'll cover in just a moment. First, let's talk about what actually happens when we partake in a fast. When we enter a longer fast, typically over the 24-hour mark, there are a number of metabolic shifts that happen within the body, all culminating with the primary shift in energy sources from glucose to fatty acids. Now, here's the thing. During this shift, our bodies have also been shown to break down proteins and convert them to glucose, a process called gluconeogenesis. This is because we always need to maintain a certain level of glucose in the body to, well, stay alive. Now you might be thinking, oh my God, this is horrible. Protein, that's our muscle. We need that. Well, not so fast. The research actually points out that during a fast of around 24 hours or longer, our bodies actually prefer to leverage recycled protein from other areas of the body, like the skin and intestinal lining. Cell types that turn over a lot, which is good, but like with everything else, context matters. Things like current cellular and metabolic health status, body fat percentage, activity levels, dietary habits, fasting schedules, overall environment, microdiversity, and stress levels. These are just a few of the variables at play, truly solidifying the point that every situation is a little unique. And it would be nearly impossible to perform good and sturdy research on every single scenario. And you know what? Just to prove a point, here's how it depends plays out as it pertains to current health status. Depending on an individual's body fat percentage, a noticeable shift has been observed in the ratio of muscle protein breakdown to fatty acid breakdown. Research has shown that during prolonged fasts, obese subjects burn 2 to 3 times less protein compared to lean subjects. And this makes sense. If people have more fat stores, they'll probably prioritize that a little more. Other data has shown that during prolonged fasting, fat oxidation accounts for approximately 94% of energy expenditure in obese subjects compared to 78% in lean subjects. Guess what accounts for the remainder of the energy? Protein oxidation, especially since there's very little carbohydrate stores after about 24 hours of fasting. See? Just a tiny example of context. Another example is dietary macronutrients consumed. The amount and quality of protein consumed during a fasting protocol appears to be critical, especially if a little more of an extreme protocol is at play like OMAD or alternate day fasting. The ideal protein goal on a fasting protocol is to surpass something known as the leucine threshold, which is when levels of dietary protein heavily driven by the essential amino acid leucine, activate our primary growth sensing pathway, mTOR, along with all the anabolic growth activity that comes along with it. This essentially is the main signal to the body that times are good and to grow. Now, here are where things can get a little tricky. When we fast, this growth pathway goes dormant, unless, that is, we stimulate it by some other mechanism. But before we get there, let's look at why we really like muscle as it pertains to living our healthiest possible life as long as humanly possible, aka longevity. Why muscle is important. This, my friends, is a topic we cover in depth in a number of other videos, which I will all link below. But the gist of it is, one of the biggest risks of death that we modern humans face as we accumulate chronological years on this beautiful floating rock is becoming physically weak and feeble, immobile, not being able to do once simple tasks like walking up the stairs without a risk for serious injury. This is often a byproduct of a condition called Sarcopenia, or the natural deterioration of muscle mass as we age, a topic that we have a full breakdown on here. This natural phenomenon happens extremely slow, over the span of years to decades, making it barely noticeable, until one day you look in the mirror and you're like, what the hell happened? Yeah, I know. That's why you should do your daily flexes in the mirror. You guys don't do daily, or never mind. There is good news here though. This is something that has been shown to be somewhat preventable, mainly by using it, muscle that is, or else we will, in fact, lose it. And to get more granular, using it means some form of physical activity that stresses your muscles just enough to keep them around. Something like enter exercise. A great way to not only preserve those hard-earned gains, but something that also alters your entire cellular, metabolic, biochemical, and physiological state to put you in a position to have an overall better day. Mitigating the risk factors for the diseases of aging, while improving vitality and longevity along the way. I mean, you would think something with all those benefits would have a hefty price tag, right? But in reality, not a dime. Only time. They ain't be lying when they say movement is medicine and motion is lotion. Oh, and it may just be the secret to maintaining muscle mass while fasting. But let's see what this new data has to say. The new study. For this one, researchers sought out to evaluate how a fasting protocol with and without exercise impacted body fat, fat-free mass, aka everything that is not fat, nitrogen balance, which is an assay to determine whether the body is breaking down muscle for energy, and overall improvements in physical strength and fitness in obese women. All pretty important stuff for those aging gracefully goals. No? To do this, they randomized 36 women in one of three groups. A fasting-only group, an exercise-only group, and then a fasting plus exercise group. They evaluated participants over an 8-week intervention time span. The exercise performed was high-intensity interval training, HIIT training, more specifically 3 25-minute sessions at 70 to 80% max heart rate per week, while the intermittent fasting protocol was a 5 and 2. A weekly strategy that has participants fasting 2 days a week and eating ad libitum with no restrictions for 5. The fasting days consisted of 2 meals in a 6-hour feeding window, comprised of 600 total calories or 25% of normal energy consumption, 40% of which was protein, meaning protein was being prioritized. All right, quick pause, not because I want to, but because I have to. It's protocols like these that make it so difficult to improve the signal-to-noise ratio when it comes to fasting studies. The problem being, intermittent fasting is the umbrella term for so many different protocols. So comparing outcomes from such a wide range of methods makes it extremely difficult to find consensus on efficacy across the scientific community. That's why everyone's fighting on Twitter. Anywho, soapbox over, what'd they find? Well, a few things. First, a significant reduction in body weight and BMI was only found in the fasting plus exercise group, while significant fat loss was found in the highest in the fasting plus exercise group, but also in the exercise group alone. Again, an increase in fat-free mass was at its highest in the exercise and intermittent fasting group, but also showed significant movement in the exercise-only group, and aerobic capacity and overall strength improved in these two groups as well, with nitrogen balance staying at equilibrium across all of the groups, which researchers attributed to that prioritization of protein. Now, I also want to note that resting energy expenditure, or the energy expended at rest, saw a decrease in the fasting-only group. Essentially, when we look at the delta in each category, this data suggests that the best option when it comes to increasing the ever-important fat-free mass, along with other key metrics, was the fasting plus exercise combo. Now, were the deltas from baseline astonishing? No, but they were certainly interesting, keeping in mind that this was only an 8-week intervention. And since we're talking limitations, some other ones to call out include the participants being isolated to a specific sex and demographic, obese middle-aged women, relying on "I trust you" adherence, as there's just always a blind spot when people aren't being monitored 24/7. And I just don't see a lot of people following something like a 5 and 2. I would have much rather seen them run the study with a 16-8 or 18-6 protocol on a daily basis. But nonetheless, this is another piece of interesting literature to add to the pile of growing evidence. As always, more research across wider demographics is needed. That being said, I think it's time to discuss what to keep in mind when trying to optimize your strategy. Putting the tactical pieces together. Assuming that you are exploring a fasting protocol with longevity in mind, and having the goal of turning on longevity pathways while preserving or even building the oh so important fat-free mass, aka a lot of that muscle, here are some things to noodle on. First, one of the best ways to stimulate growth pathways without eating is exercise, mainly strength training. research suggests that exercise may promote skeletal muscle hypertrophy via enhancing leucine sensing, with several studies indicating positive effects from exercise, specifically strength training, on the mTOR signaling that controls protein synthesis and muscle remodeling. So, making an effort to
Lift things up and put them down.
is super advantageous, especially if you're looking to optimize your fasting protocol. This will put you in a position of preserving and potentially increasing lean tissue mass while reaping or even enhancing many of the benefits of fasting. Exercise has also been shown to be a potent stimulator of autophagy, our in-house cellular recycling program that helps clean up all that intracellular debris, something fasting is known for too. Talk about a double whammy. Whammy! 120 minutes a week, working around 70 to 80% max heart rate is a good goal to strive for. Now, we also have to keep in mind we are what we eat. And if we're going to only eat during certain strategic windows every day, we kind of got to be strategic about that, right? Amino acids are the building blocks of muscle. So protein consumption is a pretty critical part of the equation. And if you are following a fasting protocol, it is super advantageous to make sure that you are consuming some high quality protein from real sources during your window. 40 grams per meal is a conservative estimate that will likely help you hit that leucine threshold. And overall, a good daily guideline is to aim for 0.75 grams of protein per pound of body weight. Finally, we get to the fasting protocol itself, which in and of itself could be its own playlist. Well, it actually kind of is, but you know where to find it. I have a full guide walking through the process of determining the best protocol for you and your lifestyle here, which will also link below. This always starts with baselining your current eating habits and then slowly and sustainably transitioning until you reach your goal. A daily 14-10 or 16-8 are great strategies to strive for. However, it's important to remember that depending on your current health status and lifestyle variables, the perfect protocol for everyone is a little different. But what remains the same is the fact that maintaining muscle, especially during a fasting protocol, is critical long term and also super advantageous here and now. Just remember to always listen to your body and adjust accordingly, especially if you're not accustomed to training, fasting, or both. Ease into it, slow and steady, one change at a time. Sustainable change is the best change. In my eyes, and looking through the lenses of longevity, having a strength training regimen while following a fasting protocol is one of the most critical parts for making it truly successful long term. We all remember how healthy habits compound on each other, right? And of course, if you need a little extra help with those habits, you can join the weekly longevity challenges in Patreon, where we as a group implement longevity-focused sustainable change habit by habit, week by week, getting healthy from the inside out. If interested, all the links for that will be in the description below. At the end of the day, operating efficiently at the cellular and metabolic level doesn't just happen. So I figured I'd put together a little haiku to help you remember what we talked about today. If you don't use it, you lose it. So move it. Because badonka donks were meant to groove it. Yeah, you know what? Forget that. Just delete that.